Today, Twitch has discontinued automatic pre-roll mid-roll ads. So you're welcome, I guess. It's entirely because of us.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah, they totally didn't post that tweet just before that video got posted.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's fully true. All those things.
I guess they have access to our. They must have access to our Google Docs when we write the stories.
Yeah, that must be true.
That's worrying.
It is, since I don't think they have anything to do with Google in that way yet.
No, they shouldn't.
Amazon and
Spoilers.
Google probably don't help give things to each other. I hope not. Anyway.
Yeah.
I kind of want Amazon and Google to be like fighting each other.
Yeah, I don't
When
know
big-
about what.
When big corporations start working together, it's usually not great.
Mm.
Speaking of which, Epic and Apple. Woo! Okay.
Yeah.
Together at last, in fisticuffs.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the ChillPoints, where this week we all have a tasty beverage to drink, apparently.
Yes,
And-
tasty beverages.
And also, apparently, my co-hosts have fans.
Yeah.
The lights get warm, and I can't have the window open. It's bad for sound.
I did think it was funny that people in the comments for CheckPoint yesterday were like, Graham on Epic and Apple, let them fight. Beej on Monster and the Pokemon Company, make them fight.
That was a good comment, yeah.
Yeah.
I did warn Paul when we did that story, audience, that I was going to go very intense. Like it was going to be quite a lot.
It was good. It was a good bit.
I'm glad that it was reproducible in audio because I was afraid that when what I did was like, oh shit, I probably peaked those levels way too hard.
You didn't actually,
Mm-hmm.
weirdly enough, because generally you do peak those mics when you yell.
Yeah.
That's consummate professionalism on Beej's part there.
Well, I think, and also though on Paul's part, that he was able to find a good level that did not. It was like, this is not going to turn out too badly.
To be fair,
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were going to go quite that loud, but I like Graham did a little the little line that Graham did at the beginning of the next story was just an improv thing that wasn't planned, but it worked out very well.
We did talk about it in the car. He's like, maybe I'll say a thing, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool, because he read my story and he was like, yeah, that's cool.
We are getting a little all over the place. Maybe we should pick a lane and make this understandable for the people watching.
All right.
Welcome to ChillPoint. For those who haven't been here before, ignore all that stuff. We'll get back to that. This is a show where we do a show on YouTube called CheckPoint, where we talk about the week's gaming news and all various silly things that are happening in the world of gaming. And there's a lot of stuff in there that we don't necessarily get to talk about. More info about the stories that we did do, as well as stories that we didn't end up doing for whatever reason. And so ChillPoint is our chance to chill with you folks and talk about all the other stuff we want to talk about. And some of that is what we were talking about before I did this intro, which is that Beej got rather excited about the idea of having Monster, the energy drink, sue Game Freaks for the Pokemon/Pocket Monster name. Because I mean, as people in YouTube said, also Monster Hunter is kind of a big thing.
I want to point out they didn't actually sue Pokemon, but Beej wanted them to because they tried to sue.
But we're rather
Ubisoft.
Gods and Monsters.
So defending a trademark does not require a lawsuit off the top. as I found out, what you do is you file a petition to cancel registration with the trademark review board. There's an actual name for it, but it's like filing a complaint. They filed a 186-page complaint.
Oh, okay. That sounds more boring in a press release, though, so I can see why you might not say it that way.
Why do you need so many pages to say, our name is Monster, and we do video game esports stuff? They also have Monster in their name.
So, Paul,
isn't that the extent of the argument?
If someone gave you a piece of paper that just said, they can't have that, it's ours. It's very simple, like a one-sentence piece of paper. Then you could think about it and be like, no. But if someone sent you a huge essay reasoning as to why they shouldn't have the thing you want, aren't you just going to look at the piece of paper and go, yeah, sure, whatever you want. Just don't make me read that.
Yeah. I think it's
not how laws work.
But I think it's one of those things that law is interesting in that when you come to the table, you have to bring every argument in your arsenal, right? It's like debate club, where it's like, if you miss an argument in debate club, if you're like, I'm choosing not to pick this particular avenue to argue about, then you're treated as ceding the point, because it's like, you didn't bring this up earlier. So lawyers have this thing of like, we better figure out every way in which this applies to us, so that when it goes before the committee, that they will say, okay, we see what you're saying. You have an awful lot of evidence here. Do you have anything to say to the contrary? You better get busy refuting all this shit.
Yeah, this is why I didn't last past one club meeting of debate club.
Yeah, and it's the idea of Monster saying Gods and Monsters is too close to our trademarks because we also work in the video game space. It's kind of like, I understand why you would say that, but I also think it's a very disingenuous argument to make when it's like, you're not actually your primary business, and even your secondary parts of your business, I guess, aren't being Gods and Monsters.
Yeah.
A monster is a very generic name, and you took it to be part of your trademark. It's like Apple Computer, right? It's like, other things can be Apple, but if you're not a computer, then you wouldn't have had a trademark thing. Now that Apple's doing more than just being a computer, it would be harder to start a company or harder to have a thing that says Apple in the title, I think.
And I mean, I know technically it's not referred to as Pocket Monsters in North America, so they would have to go fight the Japanese division. Which
would be even better.
I mean, I'm curious, though, about the Pocket Monster, Monster Hunter. Monster is a word that is used in lots of video games. I'm surprised that
lots of things
hasn't come up before now. I know there was stuff a couple of years ago about scrolls.
Right, because of Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, Obsidian was suing everybody who had the word scrolls in their name.
Yeah, that came up a couple of times.
But at least Obsidian is they're suing another company that's making a video game.
Right.
And because they make a video game. And I'm like, I kind of get it. That's kind of shitty, but I kind of get it. It's like Candy Crush Saga, right? The Banner Saga couldn't use Saga because people would...
Right. Sorry, Bethesda, not Obsidian.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes. Let's. So the stories we did talk about was this whole thing with the military back in the news, which it's like, I get what they're trying to do with having the esports thing, and I'm not necessarily fundamentally opposed to them having an esports thing.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, it's a marketing tool, but yeah, the military markets, and that's part of their thing. I think, obviously, when they're sort of doing it in a disingenuous way, when they're pretending that it's not a marketing tool or something, I think it's silly. But also, it clearly opens up a whole can of issues around what kind of, sort of how official it is, and whether that is appropriate for the military, not in terms of like legally, but just like in terms of their front-facing image. Some of the things, shall we say, that are often happen in military video games are things that probably shouldn't be done by the actual military. I think that's there was actually a story like a long time ago that was quite interesting about that. There was an organization that was like trying to raise awareness of like, hey, maybe we should do things in video games. Maybe our video games shouldn't have things in them that are actually war crimes in the real world. Like, for instance, stealing the dog tags of a downed of somebody you've killed in war is very bad. Like, that's very. Yeah. Whereas dog tags are like a really casual, like collectible in a ton of video games. Whereas taking dog tags off a dead body is a very serious thing. So it's an interesting idea, and the idea of a military esports streaming thing playing. And I don't know if you could even do it, but sort of playing in a way that kind of attempts to, I guess, reinforce what they want to present as like playing in a very, if they were playing in like a very honorable way, that would kind of be an interesting idea.
Yeah.
It's like we want to really downplay the amount of teabagging we're doing in the games.
Yeah. It's I mean, yeah, this is like, hey, guess what? It's yet another thing. This story is like, there's another instance of the U.S. Armed Forces twitching it up, and the crux of the story is, of course, like, you can now talk about you can now talk all you want about all the war crimes that the U.S. military has been involved in, and they're not going to ban you about that. So, hey, okay, I guess there's that. But then we also focused on this idea of, like, during a stream of Among Us, the person who was playing, the personnel specialist who was playing on behalf of the Navy, and bringing in a bunch of people who are like good friends, and his good friends had the excellent judgment.
Ostensibly not Navy personnel, so he was the only actual Navy personnel involved.
Yeah, it's more of a he's in charge, and therefore he's the one who's gonna get the heat over this because he should.
Yeah, and this idea of he brought in like externals to the Navy who are his close friends, who then start like saying, you know, it'd be funny because we know that our buddy Brandon is streaming on the Navy's Twitch channel. If we put up a bunch of stuff that people find horrific, so that he'll have to stream it, and I'm like, you have friends who have poor taste in humor.
You have friends you might not want to bring in for this kind of thing ever again.
You know, it's not like, I don't think this should reflect terribly on like who his friends are. Should reflect terribly on Brandon, until it's like your friends kind of showed remarkably poor judgment because they thought, oh, you know what'd be great is he's on the Navy channel and we should talk about all these like the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that they have killed in these specific operations and these horrific things that the military did. And I'm like, if your friends don't like what you do for a living, maybe they should talk to you about that.
I mean,
because holy shit,
you're taking the idea that you think that maybe they're just being that they might actually just think it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, you know,
I think I'm assuming that his whatever these people who he had on the stream weren't trying to like covertly protest the whole operation. It seems
that
weird.
Seems utterly not like what would have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is the chances of that happening again are fairly slim because he's apparently not streaming anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will no longer be streaming with us. Is the official line.
That he shouldn't.
And I imagine it's one of those things that the Navy didn't see coming as well. It's like it's like inviting in external contractors to do a job, right? It's like you have to spend time vetting them, and I mean that's for us, it's like also the same kind of thing. But there hasn't ever been. We don't have a policy where we have written down a thing to say, okay, be sure to clear these 10 or 15 things about these people, explain these rules to them about things you can and cannot do, like that kind of thing. But even before we play like Jackbox, a little behind the scenes here, even before we play Jackbox, we're like, okay, so names that are acceptable, your name, names that aren't acceptable, anything else but your name, because it's too hard for people to figure out who the hell it is that's playing.
I mean, that's something we figure out through. We figured out through experience, though. Because
it's true.
We're not concerned that people will put like slurs as their name. We're just they'll just choose dumb names.
We don't
that
want
nobody
the audience
can
to
figure
get
it out.
confused.
Yeah.
It's not like we think about, oh man, I'm gonna have so and so come and stream with me on Lure, and anyone's like, oh, Heather's bringing a friend onto Lure. Well, that'll be fine. And then it turns out it's not, and it's like, yeah, you gotta watch your friends.
Yeah.
And maybe not be friends with some of them anymore.
Anyway.
And maybe Among Us, a game about like being like having being paranoid about having a traitor in your midst and accusing people isn't like a great game for the military, the Navy to be playing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing that out there. Anyway, by the way, I believe we're going to be doing an Among Us stream at some point fairly soon.
It is the hot shit, and we should give it a try.
I think so. I can't remember when, or if that's been scheduled yet, but I believe that was a thing.
Another CTS, probably?
Yeah.
Likely.
Yeah,
it's likely a CTS.
Anyway, let's move on to
Twitch.
Move on to off of Twitch onto Twitch.
Yeah.
So this mid-roll, automatic mid-roll thing apparently was an experiment,
yes.
which has now concluded. And
very quickly.
They're going to process the data from the experiment and see what the result is.
And make their ads even better.
I don't know.
My opinion on this was that why didn't you just make this an opt-in experience? Like that was literally the first thing I thought. It's like, why not just say, do you want to be a part of this? We'll automatically roll ads for you. You'll picture-in-picture. You don't have to worry about running ads from now on.
Because there are some people that have bots that automatically run ads for them. Like that's not something that it's something that people do occasionally.
Yeah.
It's if I remember the first tweet that they made about how this was an experiment they were running, it said that this affected specific viewers. It wasn't specific channels.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Which meant it. So you could, depending on how they were running that as a rollout test, it would have been your channel's going, and then maybe a few viewers within your channel suddenly have that happen, but not everybody in your channel, is how I took that wording.
I mean, I think if nothing else, then the being a lot more clear about what the what you had to do in order to make that not happen would have been good. Would have helped make it not as contentious. As you probably know, as you have probably noticed, we run ads approximately every hour or so on our channel, depending on the show and depending on the circumstances and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe that would have been enough that they wouldn't have actually fired on our channel. Who knows?
Yeah, that's pretty possible.
But it did feel to me like, and I'm seeing people write in chat about, well, here's why they wouldn't do that, Beach. Like, here's why it had to be that everyone had to, because nobody would opt in. I'm like, I actually respectfully disagree. I think that people who are relying on bots to run their ads for them, so they would picture-in-picture into the corner, and then they would just kind of keep playing and do whatever, they might prefer the idea of doing that, because it's like, to them, they're not interrupting their day, their gameplay, or their anything when that happens. So for them to be like, you know what? Sure, I'll turn this on. I don't have to have another bot running on my page or have to do anything else like that. There might be people who are affiliates who are like, if this gives me an opportunity to run ads, and I have people who are watching me who are, who clearly are fine with watching some ads already. And then that's going to give you also a really good breakdown of who are the people that are opting into the service. What is it that they're looking for from Twitch? Who are the people who are not opting into the service? What is it that they're looking for from Twitch instead? And that's a much more like, let's analyze what the creators are doing and what they're thinking about when they're trying to run ads in the first place, by giving them the option of whether they want to do that or not.
I'm not going to argue with you
Yeah.
about whether or not opt-in or opt-out is better or a corporation will prefer one over the other.
Yeah.
However, every new feature that Twitch has placed in, whether they've added, whether it's the hype train or other previous things, have always been opt-out.
Yeah.
They've never been an opt-in mentality. You always have to go find where the feature is, and that's even if they'll let you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitch
So,
historically has
this
not
was
been
never
great.
going to be an opt-in service. At the very least, it might have been a thing of like, we're putting this in there and maybe we'll let you opt out. But given that all pre-roll ads are automatic and all other ads are basically automatic except for the ones that you can run yourself, likely that would never have been the case.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that kind of mentality is especially in this day and age, with everyone kind of being continually poked and I don't want to say the word abused, but it's more like they're being poked and prodded into the idea of like, you always have to go opt out of a new thing. You always have to go opt out of whatever it is that's happening. There would be a very refreshing change to see another corporation saying, we're going to let you opt into this service so we can see exactly how it's going. So you can decide whether it's actually good for the thing that you're doing on this service, because we're already going to be making money off of you anyway. The fact that you're here streaming stuff, the fact that people are watching you. So we're going to give you some choices onto how you want to continue to make money for us.
So a good portion of the time, Twitch sends me emails, because I'm affiliate on my own channel. They will send me emails about their new thing after it's already been implemented, sometimes 2 days after it's just been implemented.
Right.
If you're not paying attention to other people on Twitter who are finding things the moment it happens, you don't know you can opt out, which means you could be in the middle of a stream and suddenly you have new features just hitting you, which I get, like, part of the, if you're like being a full-time streamer or whatnot, part of your job is to probably try to keep tabs on that stuff and keep up with it. But it shouldn't be to the point where you could be in the middle of the stream and something could just turn on you. If they had better communication of like telling streamers what's going to go on, and this is a thing we want, and this is why we think it's good, and we really think you should opt into it, and that feature was going to be available in your dashboard soon, I would be a lot happier with that.
Yeah.
But I don't believe they're ever going to pull that kind of way of doing anything.
And especially for something like this ads thing, where it's something where the audience sees it but the streamer doesn't, and so something like that, that's really weird. I know, when I'm as a streamer, that can really throw me off. Like, for instance, even like, not that it actually was bad or anything, but when they started the like being able to affect emotes, like add overlays, flip them and all that stuff.
Like the sombrero and the maracas and the guitar.
Yeah,
there we go. When they added that as capability, I had not
channel
seen
points.
I had not seen anything about it, and so I was like, what's happening? Why are our emotes going all weird? There's got to be some weird thing, what's going on. But yes, also, as Beach points out, the other part of this story was that they've done this before for other holidays, where they've done special emote badges, emote overlays for the holidays or for the events, and they've usually been okay. Although, having them sort of temporary is always annoying. But for like Christmas, they did like a Santa hat, and they did different things like that. But yeah, maracas, a hat, and a guitar. Not great. I mean, obviously it's a tough one. It's like, so is the solution do more different things, or choose 3 different things that are more representative, or just don't do it.
Yeah, because the question is just like, as Graham points out, it's like Hispanic Heritage Month is to celebrate American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And it's like, okay, because that's an American celebration. Hispanic Heritage Month, I don't think, is a worldwide thing that's being recognized as something that happens in the United States. But the idea that it's like, so let's celebrate your ancestors who came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America, and that's, holy shit, that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of cultures that overlap in a way that, you know, how far back do you want to represent those cultures, and all those kind of things, and it's like, so how are we going to break that down? Oh, I know this, and like, you're going to have the acoustic mariachi bass guitar that they play, and you're going to have these maracas, and you're going to have a sombrero, and it's like, somebody was tasked with doing this and said, hey, find a way to represent this, and they're like, oh, what if, here's some options, and then somebody else had to say, oh, you know what, those 3 are great, let's go. Like, there had to be levels of sign-off to kind of get this into wherever, and I'm like, I am finding it harder to believe into 2020 that people aren't saying, is that really representative of, I don't know, fucking Argentina? Like, is maracas a thing that they do in Chile as well? Like, it's...
I would imagine that if you are based in America, which Twitch is, a lot of the Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations are involving, you know, Mexican culture, because that's what's
probably the predominant culture that
that's what has the most proximity. So when you look at it, it's like, yeah, that's Hispanic Heritage Month. Boom, right there.
Yeah.
It's a tough, and of course, I mean, this is not the place to be talking about this in a larger context, but there is this thing of like, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month is the same, you know, in the same way as like Black Heritage Month, right? The idea that a particular group of people are all kind of this monolith of, you know, that they can
cultures and ideas
all can be represented, when of course they're, you know, massively huge different cultures in different parts of the world with different histories and different societies that happen to have skin that is kind of the same color as each other. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, so sort of putting that, trying to sort of boil that down into 3 little graphics is, I feel like that's kind of a thankless task.
It's very fraught, definitely. You're not going to find an easy way to do that. Mm-hmm. And yet they tried to do that. And it's weird too, because it's also like, if Hispanic Heritage Month is a US recognized thing, you can't say it's a holiday, because holiday was just
were they doing anything else other than these emotes? Like, were they going to promote streamers of Hispanic heritage? Were they going to try and actually do anything beyond this, or was this a thing of like, oh, hey, it's like Valentine's Day, throw some hearts on things? Like, what is... I
don't know. I haven't seen any other info about whether they had other ideas for... Because, I mean, yeah, that would be... And that's something they have done for, you know, in support of various other sort of raising awareness, you know, of LGBT people, or for BLM stuff or whatever, is, in addition to whatever actual charity stuff, the idea of supporting and, you know, front paging streamers who are of that group.
They are front paging.
Okay,
yeah.
They are front paging.
Okay, well, that's good.
All the way through October 15th.
And talking about Latinx in gaming,
as a side note,
organization.
I cannot stand Twitch's blog. That's part of the reason why it's hard to find out what Twitch is saying. Their blog is so bad.
Oh, good. Actually, I guess the one other Twitch thing... I have
no idea how their blog works. How it is organized. It just makes no sense to me. Anyway.
The other Twitch-related story that we had was indie developer, formerly of Lambier Studios, Rami Ismail, who I I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing his name right, and I'm sorry, Rami, about that. But I couldn't put my apology into the story. It would sound really fucking weird.
I
Meaning,
wrote this apology rather than actually looking up how to pronounce your name.
Yeah, it's like. Though, in any case, I hate it when people pronounce my name wrong, so I always feel weird if I'm not doing somebody else's name right. He's programmed a command setup for his Twitch channel to play Microsoft Flight Simulator, let the entire chat play Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I saw the other night, actually, that when I went to his page to go look at what he was doing with people, much less people than when it first started, where they had like 100 people trying to fly. At one point, he did say that people were like, man, I'd love to know how this happens. Like, at some point, I'm considering releasing the command setup so that people can use it on their channels too. But that was, again, an unofficial mention on his own channel that I saw, and I wouldn't put it into the story, but I'm saying it here. It's just because I happen to see it in passing. So whether he does that or not, that's whatever. But yeah, people are playing Microsoft Flight Simulator now in Twitch. It's very cool. And then I came up with a completely ridiculous yarn to spin off of that. So you can watch that again if you want to.
And by the way,
story.
If you don't know, he's the developer recently of Vlambeer, which is I think we talked last week about it, that they have actually are closing down their development studio.
After they finish the last game, or the last game's been done or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, the game they currently have in development is once that finishes, then Vlambeer kind of like sews itself up for real. But it's funny is if you go to his Twitch channel, and somebody pointed that out actually while I was on the channel, he has an area where it's like it talks about who Rami is, and it says that formerly of Vlambeer, but Vlambeer hasn't closed, and he's still technically working there, I guess. But it's like he's already got formerly of Vlambeer in there because they've already said they're doing it. But then also in his about the Rami section, where it talks about this channel, it says that he works for Vlambeer. Mm-hmm. And so somebody said, hey, those two things don't agree. He's like, shit, I gotta go do that. So everybody has problems trying to figure out how to update things on Twitch.
like when you pointed that out to me, I was like, I'm pretty sure they put those in two different sections on Twitch, so it's really easy to miss updating if you put that information in both.
It's so sad when people don't keep their about page up to date,
Right?
Wait, are we allowed to talk shit about that now?
I guess.
Okay, cool. Yeah, people who don't keep their about pages up to date.
Yeah.
Now I have to go check all of mine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
So there was we talked a little bit about the monster thing, which is mostly just this idea that this idea that they there's a lot of other games that have the word monster in them.
And that's for some reason that a company that manufactures drinks, because they are involved in esports, has a complaint against that. And the dumb thing is like, because that didn't go to court, that didn't have to be a resolved trademark, because Ubisoft just like, we're changing the name. Yeah,
I would venture that if Ubisoft had chose to fight it, they would have had a pretty good case.
I agree.
Especially considering, Monster Hunter, Pocket Monster, blah, 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 that there's a bunch of other games that also would theoretically have to. But also, Gods and Monsters is a super generic name for a video game. So I can see why they might why they're fine with changing it. And maybe even they were intending on changing it.
I guess. I mean, I was never intending to play it because, it's Ubisoft and they're tainted now for life for sexual harassment.
At least Gods
everyone I hear talk about the new title has to remind people that it was called Gods and Monsters, so I don't know.
If you went to like I linked Paul to a page to say, can you pull up the Immortals Phoenix Rising image to use that as part of the whatever, and when you go to the website and it shows Immortals Phoenix Rising, the image it has next to it, the initial image to the profile image for Immortals Phoenix Rising, is literally the Gods and Monsters logo. They haven't changed it yet, as we're talking about updating about pages.
It might also help if they didn't spell Phoenix with an F and a Y.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's how that's pronounced.
Yeah.
What?
I'm assuming it's got to be Phoenix. It's like that's how I'm gonna pronounce it. But yeah, it's Gods and Monsters, at least, it's like when Peter Molyneux made Black and White. It's like, that's a hell of a title, because it's a very generic sounding title, but you remember Black and White from the name of it.
Never heard of it, but okay.
Yeah. It's like, that was something I could remember. It's like, oh yeah, that new game, Black and White, and I could remember things about that. Gods and Monsters is, again, a very specific title to kind of generic things, but like, it has good rhythm. Gods and Monsters has good rhythm. Anyway.
And then, the Call of Duty League, like the official Call of Duty League, is going to be doing their new season on PC, but still using controllers, at least for the 2021 season. They said for the 2021 season, which might indicate that they're looking to maybe change it going forward. But I guess the idea being that would be a pretty big change to spring on a bunch of pros without a lot of warning.
True.
Because, I mean, theoretically using it on a PS4 with a controller versus a PC with a controller is relatively the same. But, I like the line you came up with for when I had that story, when I posted that story in the in our like stories document. I had a note that I was like, I'm trying to think of what the metaphor is for this. And I think the one you came up with is better.
That was me. That was Graham.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. But I liked yours. One of the ones that you had that Graham was telling me about that was like really, really perfect. It was like the third one you listed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I was like, is this, it's like, this would be, what's the like the sports metaphor? I was like, is it like, it's like you have to like playing pro baseball, but you have to pitch underhand everything. The Kentucky Derby, but everyone has to ride Clydesdales.
Yes, that's the one I loved.
Or my thing was that was dude too. And then my third one was it's like you're playing basketball, but I have to be on your team.
Oh right, yeah, I remember liking that one because I was just like, I want Beach to say he's not good at basketball, even though I've never seen him play.
Yeah, I'm probably not good at basketball. I never was, so I probably am still not. I don't think I've acquired some mystical knowledge into my 40s where all of a sudden I'm good at basketball now.
I know, but it'd be interesting.
In case anybody is under any illusions, or I want to be very clear that I know that all of these players could very, very easily beat anybody I know in Call of Duty with them using a control and the other person using a mouse and keyboard. I'm sure these people are like amazing at Call of Duty using a controller. But fundamentally, mouse and keyboard is a better thing for first-person shooters. I feel like that's not a big debate. Maybe there is a debate about it, but in like the fact that there's mechanics in games to diminish the effectiveness of mouse and keyboard in certain circumstances, and that they are officially, when they do leagues and stuff, they always split them versus mouse and keyboard versus controller, because fundamentally mouse and keyboard is a more accurate way of controlling, but you can still do pretty amazing stuff.
So
yes, the hot takes.
Speaking of consoles versus PCs versus consoles versus Xbox versus Xbox versus Xbox.
Yeah.
Xbox.
This was a public service, really, what Graham performed
Xbox.
Here. Yeah, text Xbox.
Ooh.
Does anybody else, whenever you write Xbox, I always write Xbox. Like XBOBX. Just because I get into writing X's and B's and O's, and I get mixed up.
Some kind of off-brand babom.
Basically just the word Bob, but like as a username.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, Bob with X's on either side. Yeah. It's Bob, but it's like, super straight edge.
I'm more confused on whether or not Xbox is always supposed to be capsed or not. Or if the one is capsed, or like I know the X is generally, but
the first X is, and then the B is supposed to be, but maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe they're all supposed to be capitalized all the time.
I have no idea.
I mean, IGN got it right really.
Yes.
It just was hard to follow. The Xbox Series S will not run the Xbox One X enhanced versions of backwards compatible games, but instead run Xbox One S versions of Xbox One and Xbox 360 titles. It's like, that's fine. It's just saying that if you have the S, it's not going to do anything. It's still going to run the S versions of all these games. It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
this is definitely not IGN's fault. This is just complicated because of the insane naming system that Microsoft decided to use for Xboxes. The note I had on this was that, I don't know, is this the first time that a generation of consoles has come out, like, that is sort of, I mean, generation in the sense of generally, like, the new console that is different
from the old one.
No, and not just like an update of the old one, but as in, like, it's actually like, no, I guess sometimes they are backwards compatible, but I think I feel like this is one of the first times that a new generation of console has come out where it's actually less powerful than the previous generation because of the way they've been doing the, like, multiple models and stuff now. Like, there was always the joke about how a Wii was just two GameCubes taped together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but two GameCubes taped together is still better than one GameCube.
Yeah.
Right. So if they had brought out a Wii and it was actually less powerful than a GameCube, people would be like, "What?
What was that all about?" Yeah. But I think you're right. This is the first time that a next generation console. Well, it's the first. I think this is really, like, the first time that we're seeing two consoles debut from a single company that's part of the next gen platform, right? Like, and both PlayStation and Xbox in this respect are getting two consoles at launch that have that are markedly different from each other in different ways. That the PS5 versus the PS5 digital, like PS5 disc versus PS5 digital, it's like the same underlying hardware. The only real difference is one has a disc drive and one doesn't.
Yeah,
but they're the same, like, hardware.
To me, that's different. Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah.
It's still like we're releasing two consoles at the same time, but there is an actual marked difference between the two of them. You can see that one of them has a disc drive and one of them does not. And then you know that it's like, then your criteria changes for which one you would buy. And it's, I think, the same thing for the Microsoft Series, or the Microsoft Xbox Series releases, where it's like the X is made to do everything in, like, sounds like native 4K kind of thing versus upscale 4K, which is what the S is going to do. And that's like, now it's a completely different set of criteria. It's like, do you want the X because of reasons that are important to you regarding 4K, or do you want the S because those reasons for 4K are not as compelling to you? And also, I don't know, do they have disc drives in both of them? I don't really know.
For the Xbox, no. The bigger one has a disc drive, and the smaller one is digital.
Right.
Only, I believe.
And I think it's an astounding play by Microsoft to basically say, we are putting out a lower spec version of a box that can still play all of our next gen games that are coming out. But we're putting out a lower spec version of it immediately. So for people who are very price sensitive, they might be like, I'm going to buy that because at least it gets me into the next gen thing. I can play next gen games right away, and I don't give a shit if they're 4K or not. Okay. I can at least play the next gen game.
I don't follow Microsoft's Xbox thing because I have no interest in their stuff. I just know about the current stuff because it's the new shiny box, and we need video game news apparently. So, but what Graham's sentence was saying was that the smaller one, the Series X.
Series S.
The S is the underpowered one.
Is less powerful and has less memory than the Xbox One X, the high-end version they end up making later.
Yeah, so they updated the Xbox One there's the Xbox One, the original one, and then they made the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X, which were two subsequent versions of the Xbox One. They ran all the same software as the Xbox One, but the X was super fast and could do 4K stuff, and
Okay.
the S was less good. And basically, they have continued that that naming system and
Divergence.
also and that divergence into the next generation. So the new low end is still lower than the old high end.
But it would still be higher than the old low end.
Yes.
So it'd be kind of in the middle of what the last gen was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the important thing also with this to talk about this is part of the whole PCization of consoles, I guess you could call it, is that the line of performance is a lot blurrier now, because it's not just here's the thing, we made a whole bunch of custom chips that are crazy and powerful, here it is. The stuff that's in a PS5 and the stuff that's in an Xbox is PC parts. You can buy basically all the parts that are in, with some differences, but basically all of the technology that's in an Xbox or in a PlayStation is stuff that you could have in your computer at home. And so while the Xbox One or the Xbox Series S is less powerful in terms of raw CPU power than the old high-end console, there's a bunch of stuff that has been improved on it, to that is part of the new sort of the next gen infrastructure. So it's got better better memory stuff and better like hard drive access stuff and better. So it's not a complete like this is better, this is worse, as is the case with PCs, right? Like when Nvidia just came out with their new line of graphics cards.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, right? The low end of the new line is not better than the high end of the old line. But it's got the new architecture, and it does a bunch of stuff better, but in terms of sheer grunt, it is not quite as good.
Okay.
And so what they talk about is that like the Xbox One X, the old one, the old high-end powerful system could do 4K basically by throwing a ton of processors at it and working really hard. Whereas the new setup with the new series ones are a little bit smarter about how they do stuff. So the Series S, while not as powerful as the old Xbox One X, is better in some ways, but
Right, because it still runs things better than it used to. It's routed in a different way, or however.
Yeah.
I don't computers.
So like the graphics quality might not be as good, but like your load times will probably be a lot better, or the various things like that. So, and as we talked about last week, the idea behind with this S and X, which is a neat idea, that the Xbox Series S will be optimized for 1440p. X will be optimized for 4K. And theoretically, that will be the main difference between them. That all the extra power that the Series X has is just basically to get that extra 4K processing. It wouldn't be so bad. It wouldn't be so bad if X and S weren't just like the two closest letters together to say.
I mean, I want to also point out that there are 24 other letters in the Roman alphabet that Xbox could be using, and they didn't have to use S and X again.
Yeah.
Xbox Xylophone, Xbox Sierra.
Yeah. It's very like, and I think I think that the Series S is obviously a play to people where it's like, we know people will want to buy into the new thing and play Xbox, and relying upon people to drop $500 right now on that kind of, because I think the Series S is one of those like evolutionary dead ends. I think it's the thing. It's like you're going to buy into the Series S. It's going to go for as long as it's going to go, and the X is going to go a little bit longer. And at some point when the new console comes out, like, because the S will have already stopped. At some point when the new console comes out, so these things are already coming up again, The Series X will be like, now this will diverge again into two paths, and we will have whatever the next weird Xbox naming thing is. That one will have the lower powered version that will stop, and the other one will be like, this is the one that'll last you 5 or 6 years. And I think that, and that's a weird thing to say because I'm sure both of them will last you 5 or 6 years. But the S is not going to get continued along another path. It's going to be like, this thing's going to go to a certain point and be like, we're not interested in doing anything more with that. We will split this one off, and we'll have the Series X thin, and then some sort of other like fat thing that does even more, whatever. It does 8K gaming or who knows what the
man,
hell. But
I want a console to call themselves thin. I've never seen a console do that. They've been slim and light and all kinds of things, but thin's a new one.
From the perspective of somebody who's like, I would like it's like, I am price sensitive. I see this and I'm like, if I wanted a next gen game at all, I would be looking at the S and being like, I guess that's okay. Like, I'm looking at a new Apple Watch and I'm like, what new Apple Watch am I going to buy? Maybe I don't buy the high end whatever. Maybe I buy last year's on clearance, or maybe I buy the new thing that's a little underpowered because it's still an Apple Watch. It's still going to do the thing I want it to do. It's just going to have a few less features. Like,
yeah, I mean, if nothing else, yeah. Again, like you said, I as somebody who like I don't have an Xbox One, and I haven't been that interested in it. But having the new next gen console at that low price point, especially and there definitely is that like, you can get into the next generation at this low price point, and it'll run all the same games as the expensive one. Like, there's definitely that thing of like, the expensive one only exists to make this cheaper one look better.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the expensive one is also really good and better, but it is compelling. Like, I think it's a good call. I think it's a good move. And now finally the PlayStation 5 has released their stuff, and put it at the price point that everyone was kind of expecting. Although I think I think people were hoping for $50 difference between them rather than $100. But
yeah, I mean, I could see why, but since we're talking about the PlayStation 5, apparently they have given out emails to the gamers who applied and had the right gaming whatevers that they required.
Yes.
And they're already sold out of their stock. And I think they had more gamers qualify than there were stock for them to sell within their own store.
The problem is they sent out those letters like yesterday. And the pre-orders went live like before that. And so they all got sold out. Like, the whole idea was that's supposed to be you were going to be like in before everybody else.
Yeah.
But apparently Sony didn't tell like Best Buy that.
I think it sounds like what occurred, because I saw some tweets about GameStop having their orders go live, where they put out like a press release or some sort of thing saying we're doing pre-orders. But I also saw tweets that said that none of the managers were aware that they were doing pre-orders of that console on that day. So I feel like maybe what happened was they did the PlayStation whatever thing they did, and then they released the prices, and they were probably supposed to have told stores we're going to do pre-orders at a certain time, and they didn't inform them, and so stores just went ahead.
Yeah.
And it was random. It was very badly handled.
And they're actually, it is worthwhile to mention though, from a I guess supply pipeline point of view, there's always when this stuff happens. I mean, Nintendo is particularly bad about this, but there's people get all grumbly about like, well, why didn't they make more? And it's like, right, there's somewhere you've got to lock in your
production order.
You've got to lock in your production order, and you can't ramp up to the amount that you need to supply everybody on day one, because then you end up with a bunch of production capacity you can't maintain. So
I meant more in the terms of I believe there was a thing where they stated that they would let people know when the pre-orders were going to happen, and then just everything kind of exploded in different areas all at once, and there was no coordination, it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that it could have been handled a lot better. But just I saw some people in the chat talking about how it's sort of artificially constrained, and I don't think that's the case.
I do like Evil Badman saying a Sony VP said in July they were going to give sufficient warning before pre-orders, and I'm like, yeah, that was the sufficient warning. We're going to give you warning. This is the warning. There will be pre-orders.
I feel like
I don't
think
think that's what they meant.
that was wishful thinking.
Yeah,
on his
it's
part.
true.
There was some hope.
He's like, we're going to give sufficient order on pre-orders, right? We're going to do that. We're going to do that this time.
I
No?
could totally
Okay.
if Sony wanted to play it like real, just kind of like if they want to play it real shitty, let's talk about what that could look like. The idea of saying, no, our pre-orders are supposed to be first, so every other retailer, if you do not cancel your pre-orders right now, or we will be canceling your pre-orders for you, essentially, and then we will open up stock to you once we have done our pre-orders first. Like, they want to, like, iron fist it. They could probably do something like that, because I'm sure Best Buy will be like, well, we're not canceling everybody's pre-orders, but now that we know that we might end up getting less stock, now we have to be prepared to cancel people's pre-orders.
Yeah, that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
Okay, stories we did not do in the actual episode. More great EVE Online news. Great in the sense of a war documentary. That apparently there's a trouble a brewing in the world of EVE. There's stirrings of possibly there's going to be
A revenge plot.
Yeah, well, there's been stuff going back and forth, and it's looking like there's going to be some sort of like ridiculous biggest ever battle happen, which apparently is largely surrounded around a guy who was very high up in one of the big
In Goonswarm.
yeah, one in the Goonswarm, which is one of the very big corporations. These are the player-made sort of guilds. Left. He actually was deployed in the military for almost a year. And when he came back, he was informed that his services were no longer required, that they had replaced him in his position, and he was not needed anymore.
You know, like they do to pregnant women. Not
Sure.
Eve, just the general populace.
And so that was not very. He was not very happy about that. Went on to join a rival corporation, and I would assume had all sorts of secret information about the internal workings of these various corp stuff. And he has worked his way up in rival organizations and basically put together a coalition to destroy his former employer. And
that's
they
quite the
seem to be
revenge
very
plot.
dedicated to this thing. The Goonswarm and their allies, are not like the most. They are one of the most powerful corporations in the EVE world, and you don't get that way without cracking a few eggs. Let me say. So they have their own set of enemies, and so this guy has basically put together a Legion of Doom, if you will.
What's
All their
funny about
enemies,
this-
basically all their enemies coming together. The best part about this, though, is so that all their enemies basically come together and they're going to starting to attack them. And so what happened is the leader of the Goonswarm, or the Matani, I believe his name is, or he goes by.
Yeah.
Along with they started thing, they basically called their banners, okay, like in a Game of Thrones style thing. They sent out messages to every person who has ever been part of Goonswarm, spent like over 10 years. People who deactivated their EVE accounts like years and years ago. They sent out messages to everybody, and basically it was like, look, if there was ever a time to fight. This is like it's a real like you know, a real like inspirational thing or whatever, right? And so apparently like a ton of people have come
it sounds
back.
like they're outnumbered 2-1 as well at this point, based on how many people that their opponent has managed to like put together. Like it's a ridiculous amount of being overpowered.
Just a ridiculous revenge plot in a cartoon.
What kills me about this too is it's like the dude was like a flight commander. He was like as you say, he was really highly placed, and he's like, I got to go on deployment. They're like, all right, see ya. And in the meantime, you're like, he's gone for however long he's gone for, and it wasn't like I'm going to go on deployment for 2 weeks. It's like I got to be gone for months, and at that point, it's like if you're going to be gone for months, and you say, I know I'll be coming back, but you're also I'm going to be really... This is going to sound awful. I'm just going to get really awful here. If you have a guy who says, I'm going to go on deployment for several months, I'm in the military, I could just get shot and get killed. It's like, we need to have somebody to come in and replace this person with the idea that maybe they actually won't... What if they didn't make it back? Like, what if something terrible did happen to them and they couldn't come back? We need to...
Why do you always go to the terrible
It's
place?
always about damage mitigation, right?
Why can't it just be like, they're going to be gone for a long time, so we need to find a replacement for them for at least while they're gone, and wow, we found someone who's better at their job or something.
Or
why do you have to go with, like,
it doesn't have to be
they'll just disappear in a black hole?
It doesn't have to be better. It just has to be, like, it's somebody who was, like, as good. And so this guy comes back that was like, hey, I'm back, I'm ready to resume my duties, like, doing the stuff I was doing. And now you have this thing of, like, I've spent a year or whatever... We've spent a year, like, training somebody within the organization to kind of take over this role. And if they knew it was temporary, then that's one thing to say, well, you're going to have to step back and do whatever. But what if that guy got upset and was like, no, I like my job, and what are you doing? Like, what, giving it to this person who's been gone for a year? They don't know what's been going on for a year. They have no idea what's been going on. And it's like, now do you risk that person going off and being like, it's thanks for keeping my seat warm, and it's like, F you, I want my seat back. I'm going to go and do something else. Nobody, this was always going to end badly.
Nobody's like, oh, well, you're not needed anymore, and I expect that you're going to make an army happen. They're just like, oh, you're not needed anymore, and now I'm done. And then when you come back with an army, that's unexpected to them.
And I'm like, but I'm being horrible for a reason, to be like, this is the worst case scenario here. It's just...
you can never fire Beej. Clearly, he will do things.
I will go off and join a... Well, and what's also weird, too, is that this guy went to, like, another company within EVE that was an ally of Goonswarm for the time that they were doing some stuff. And then at a certain point, he was like... At a certain point, they're like, oh, good, I'm glad that big war is over. He's like, yeah, I'm glad that big war is over, too. I'm stabbing our third-place ally, and you're next. And it's like, what? What is happening all of a sudden? And all it is it's about revenge, and it's like, rather than be like, I have a dedicated grievance, and I need to take this up with you because I think it's bullshit. And look, I'm at equal power of you, and I think you need to acknowledge my grievance. He's like, F acknowledging grievances, I'm going to destroy you. And I'm like, oh, but it's a war game, and I guess that's how you settle grievances, is through war, right?
It's a video game, yeah. It's the thing you can do. It's an option.
Not through negotiation, not through the trading of resources.
I mean, of all video games, EVE actually has the most non-war stuff happening in it, really. Like, they do a lot of negotiation and do a lot of trading of resources and do a lot of, like, outside the game political balancing and stuff. But sometimes the hammer's got to come down, I guess. Anyway.
Well, okay.
We'll see what actually happens with this.
What's our next story, Paul?
All right. Next story is the Giga Leak just keeps on giving. Because some people have found some more info, some more stuff about unreleased Game Boy ROMs. Mm-hmm. So games for Game Boy and Game Boy Color, including Pokemon Picross, which they did bring out on
the
3DS eventually.
Mm.
But this thing for the original Game Boy would not have been exactly the same game. But
no, it's true.
But then apparently Ubisoft was going to release John Madden Football for the original Game Boy,
Nope.
4-color black and white, which was going to be a port of John Madden Football '93 for Electronic Arts. This is when the name
Thank
it
you.
was still John Madden.
Because I'm like, Ubisoft developing a game. But doesn't John Madden Football belong to another company? It's like, it does, in fact.
Yay.
Yeah.
Actually, they went over part of this in that High Score documentary on Netflix
The fact that
about
EA owns
because
the-
Sega wanted to put sports on the Sega Genesis and how they were trying to do sports games on the NES or the Super Nintendo or something, and they were having on the NES because they were having a hard time getting that many players onto the screen.
Yeah.
On that hardware.
I feel like a lot of people might not even know what the Madden part of like Madden football actually means now. Because like back in the day, he was like on the cover, right?
He's the guy who pops out.
He was like
He was on the cover, yeah.
right, like he jumps out of screens and stuff,
yeah, yeah,
isn't he? Yeah,
Ah!
yeah, really
with
loud.
like a football, yeah,
guy.
yeah.
The one that I want to stay away from because he's real loud.
So yeah, but I'm gonna level with you. It doesn't look great. I mean, I don't know what Madden '93 looked like, but
This looks a
And-
little more Tecmo Super Bowl-ish, yeah.
yeah.
Tecmo
I mean,
Bowl-ish, yeah.
I don't know what I'm expecting for like what will work, how a football game would work on the Game Boy. Like it's just fundamentally it's not gonna be great. It's four colors.
It's
It's a
gonna be
Game
very
Boy.
small.
It's very, very small.
I mean, in the day that they were probably developing it, probably amazing.
I
Like
guess
today-
it wasn't that amazing.
It's not like they made it yesterday and they were like, "Oh, just leak out this thing that we made for fun." Like,
I would
no.
like you to look up Mattel Electronic Handheld Football.
no.
And then tell me that this game, that the Game
No.
Boy version of John Madden Football is markedly equal or worse to Mattel Electronic Handheld Football.
will not do such a thing. You cannot trick me into looking up sports.
It's basically like, of course, this was probably the best you were gonna get at being able to play football in a handheld way, because that's kind of how that always worked. But it definitely was limited by the abilities of the time. I just think it's interesting that it was Ubisoft developing a game developing John Madden Football, which is something that was technically like it's owned by Electronic Arts. And it's like, what was going on here? Like,
Oh, I guess
Like-
EA probably didn't have the Game Boy.
yeah, they might
development
not have had
experience,
the dev kit for it. Like a lot of people just tried to make things
yeah,
before they were allowed to make them, and then tried to see if they could make them after. There's a lot of ask permission after the fact.
Heather's been watching a lot of High Score, so
I've been watching
So-
High School.
So the question is,
It's fun.
did it? I'm assuming. I mean, I'm assuming if it didn't come out, that maybe it wasn't good, or maybe
Well, or
there's
that
another,
they couldn't get an agreement on it, or
yeah, maybe there's another reason why it didn't come
there's
out. but-
lots of reasons.
Oh, I see. Ubisoft announced the game, and the game was developed by NMS Software. So I don't know if
so
that's a
it's published by Ubisoft, I guess probably.
yeah. That's the part that got me weird, because I was like, well, wait, they didn't program this. It's like, but it's because I guess EA
Like,
did EA just not have the rights to put it on handheld consoles?
or they
Who
just didn't have the
knows?
relationship with Nintendo, maybe.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, they were developing John Madden Football made it onto
Oh, yeah,
the
NES.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
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 So weird to think that. Oh yeah, because John Madden Football was owned by Electronic Arts, and they published it on the Apple II,
Mhm.
and then it launched on consoles in 1990.
Yeah.
Okay, I see now.
They tried to ask him if they could do 7-on-7 because they wanted to put less pixels on the screen. And he said that wasn't real football. And then they all had to be like, "You're right, that's not real football. We will do a full real football game."
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't going to be real football, right? It's like, going to level with you. We're going to have to make some compromises.
Oh, wow.
Um,
The whole second episode's about Nintendo. I think you'd like
I
it.
probably would like it.
As
I
an
might have
update,
lifted, actually.
as an update to the Apple-epic thing, things have been going back and forth a little bit. The last thing was the Epic trying to get the injunction so they could get back into the App Store without removing the thing that got them kicked off in the first place. And so Apple has now responded to that. Basically, saying I love this. For reasons that have nothing to do with Epic's claim against Apple, Fortnite's popularity is on the wane. By July 2020, interest in Fortnite has decreased by nearly 70%.
Jesus!
As compared to October 2019.
Holy shit!
Wow.
This lawsuit and the front page headline that's created appears to be part of a marketing campaign designed to reinvigorate interest in Fortnite.
Okay, that makes more sense with why they're trying to do certain things in this way.
I would like to speculate as to reasons why it might have fallen off.
Yeah. Epic has engaged
so
in a
often-
full-scale, pre-planned media blitz surrounding its decision, which is true, to breach its agreement with Apple, creating ad campaigns around the effort they continue to this day. If Epic were truly concerned with if Epic were truly concerned that it would suffer reputational injury from this dispute, it would not be engaging in these elaborate efforts to publicize it. From all appearances, including the #FreeFortnite campaign, Epic thinks its conduct here will engender goodwill, boost its reputation, drive users to Fortnite, not the opposite. That is not harm.
Oh Christ!
Yeah.
There's always been a saying, or at least a rule of thumb, that when it comes to Apple, and when something happens to Apple, wait a week, because you'll hear nothing for a week, and then in a week's time you're going to hear something absolutely brutal. Because they always take like a week to be like, we're going to work all this out, and when we have what we have to say, you're going to hear it.
It was this. Epic's own conduct in developing and distributing Fortnite establishes that the iPhone is reasonably interchangeable with other mobile devices running non-iOS operating systems, with PCs, laptops, with gaming consoles. And indeed, after Fortnite was removed from the App Store, Epic encouraged users to switch platforms, explaining the party continues on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, blah blah blah. Basically, they're refuting the idea that taking it off the App Store is them destroying Fortnite's or Epic's livelihood, right?
Oh god. Oh, that's funny. So I think the reason why, if this is correct, if Fortnite has dropped in popularity by 70%, because we're assuming that this is something Apple is saying.
Apparently Apple's using like Google Trends or something to get that info.
Okay.
So who knows whether that's how true that is, but yeah.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is it's like you can't just put your faith in those kind of numbers. But if it was following in popularity, the only reason I could think why would be that the people who are playing it are not, because I always figure the people who are playing Fortnite are kids predominantly. And because school has not been a thing since March, that the pressure to play Fortnite would have been off.
Well,
because it wouldn't be reinforced at the schoolyard.
Maybe not at the schoolyard, but Fortnite is, because it's a social game where you can hang out with your friends and there's a voice chat, there were kids that were going back to Fortnite who hadn't played in a while.
Because it was a reliable place to go hang out with your friends.
Yeah, it was a way you could hang out with your friends, and that was like the last thing that they were still, everyone still kind of has, and because it's a free-to-play game, right. So it's on a lot of platforms. That was a way to do that. So I wouldn't.
So
I wouldn't think it was losing popularity over quarantine.
right, because you think that would kind of put a pin in it. It's like they would need a place to actually hang out and socialize.
Yeah, but it's also been around a long time. People get older, their tastes change, other games come along. Chances are good it was already kind of waning a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I think it's. I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers were going down just because
That's what happens.
people
I mean,
people are on to the new hotness, right?
Yeah, and we used to do like a Fortnite story every week, it felt, because they were always doing something new. And then we hit a long time where it didn't feel like they were really doing anything new until we hit this new Apple versus Epic thing.
As we know,
And-
CheckPoint has its finger on the pulse of the community.
Well, I mean, it's a thing I see all the time with games. It's like, oh, Sea of Thieves, people are still playing that, or Pokemon Go, people are still playing that, and it's like, yeah, you may have moved on, but there's still a group of people who are still playing the game. Otherwise, it wouldn't be around at all, especially as a social game. But what games get talked about in the news because of what stunts they're pulling or what new stuff they're putting in all the time does not necessarily reflect the playership of a game. Sometimes there's just, as a game a lot of people play, but there's nothing new going on for gaming news to talk about.
Yeah. And like something like Minecraft occupies this idea of this is more of a toy as opposed to a game. And it's like this is something that you can play with. It is a sandbox elements of it, right? Whereas Fortnite is like, even though there's lots of things to do in the game, it's still like a structured elements to how you do stuff in Fortnite. It's not a place you can go to just build and explore and do your own thing.
Although they're trying to make that more of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is interesting that, I mean, of course, we've talked about before. The picture, I will say, the picture of the video game industry that you might get from watching CheckPoint does probably tend to be warped a little bit.
Yes.
Well, yeah, there's
Just
definitely
in the
certain
sense-
games we gravitate towards more in stories than
In the sense, yeah, there's probably, I feel like Animal Crossing, while a very popular game, has probably loomed larger in the CheckPoint discourse than it has in the real world. Probably there's games like, say, Fallout 76, which are not like the most popular game, but they keep having silly, terrible things happen in them.
Yeah.
Which makes us
And-
want to talk about them.
There's also like our own gaming preferences. Destiny comes up probably a little bit more often than, say, Overwatch would, because we have people who know about Destiny, who like to play Destiny. Beach tries very hard every week to find a Nintendo story he would rather talk about than the non-Nintendo news that he has to talk about. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's nothing there for him to talk about.
It's true. The other
Yes.
thing I saw in relation to this fight that is going on between Apple and Epic is that Apple is also looking to they're looking to have the courts approve the delisting Unreal Engine, essentially saying like we want the court to say it's fine if you revoke any Unreal Engine developer certification. And not look at that as being as that causing irreparable harm or whatever for iOS, because, and I'm kind of like, I understand where they're coming from, is that if Epic by making this V-Bucks like discount, buy your own shit through us and not do it through Apple, by doing that, the fear is they're like, if Epic's going to just basically blatantly flout the rules of our store, who's to say they don't bake something into the engine that ultimately also flouts the rules of our store, and then everyone starts using their engine, and then that becomes a way of doing an end run around, and then we have to take a whole bunch of stuff off the store. We'd rather just say you can't use the Unreal Engine anymore on iOS because we can't trust that this developer isn't going to try to fuck us somehow. And I'm like, I see where they're coming from. I don't necessarily think that's going to be great for anybody.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah,
you know, and it's like that's a very hard thing to make a pronouncement on. And I think that's the more insidious bomb here, is that what happens if Epic does decide to do that, or what happens if Apple gets their way and Epic was in no way going to do that. It's like both people are very much not to be trusted in this respect now, because it's like, are you doing it because you literally do fear that something bad is going to happen, or is this going to be something to be like, fuck you, Epic, we're going to get back at you for this? Is there a little bit of both there? Like, it's like,
I mean, it could also just be a, like, you're trying to put more pressure on by using another thing. Like, there's all kinds of ways you can take a response like that.
Yeah, and it's
like how video games will overdo their loot boxes, and then everyone gets mad, and then they say, well, okay, we took them out, praise us for taking them out, and but they also are still doing kind of an awful microtransaction-y thing that we've decided is okay now because it's not as awful as it could be.
So
right?
I learned a term for that.
Oh,
it's called the Overton window. And what happens in the Overton window is that it's I know, but it's a political thing as well. Is that with the Overton window, you state that in this window on an entire spectrum of behavior, this window is what's considered acceptable behavior.
Okay.
And then what happens is that somebody then moves the window by trying to do behavior that is unacceptable, but in a very blatant way, like a very, like, way beyond the pale of what you should be doing. And then when people come along like, that's not okay, they're like, okay, well, we'll do something that's less terrible. Isn't that better? And people are like, well, that is better, yeah. And what they've done is they've expanded the window, or they've moved the window along the spectrum where they want it to be. And then that's how you change behavior over time, is you say you do something very bad so that you end up shifting the window to be something else. And
put the bad window in front of me.
Well, I couldn't keep it on my side, but
you should definitely keep it on your side.
I know that's a very awful kind of pickup artist thing. It's like the framing and whatever, but yeah, Overton window is this thing that is like a real phenomenon.
I feel like the Overton window is more like a specialized instance of the sort of signposting thing, because I mean, I've never heard it used in a non-political context.
Yeah.
But yes, that it, the idea of, I mean, it's the same, as we actually just talked about with the Xbox having the, like, you have the really expensive one so that the cheaper one looks better, right? It's all part of the same kind of psychological effect of sort of trying to change what normal is. Oh yeah, by the way, PS5 games up to $70.
Yeah, I mean,
American.
Xbox ones are probably going to be too, which is going to be an extra $15 Canadian. So we're looking at probably $9,500 a game for us.
Yeah,
coming up.
We're going to crack 3 digits on the reg. That's not going to be good.
Oh, God, it's going to be gross with tax too.
Yep.
Oofa doofa.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xbox. I think Microsoft has said that first-party titles on Xbox are actually staying at the 60.
Oh, okay.
I thought I read that somewhere. Maybe that is just wishful thinking.
That would be nice. My hope is that Nintendo Switch games will stay where they are, at least until they decide to do another actual generation.
Mm-hmm.
But given how markets go, I can see them also upping it to step in line with everyone else, because that'll become the new normal, right? So.
Yeah, Canadian prices.
Looking at 90.
Yeah.
That's still gross.
Yeah,
I've basically never been happy with the 80, because I handheld gaming for the longest time. You could get games for around more closer to the $40 price point, and then 60 for the home console stuff.
Now, Brozart points out that a $40 game in 1990 would be $80 in 2020.
It's true.
What's weird to me about
the price has actually kept fairly constant over the years.
What's weird about that to me, though, too, is I remember being in, my memory of when I bought a Super Nintendo, the console, was surely that was $300 Canadian back then, wasn't it? Or was a lot of 250 or 220 or whatever it was. And then I looked and it's that was $150 for the set, the with the 2 controllers and Super Mario World. And then I was like, okay, but surely when we bought a Nintendo, then we bought the power pad one. We bought the power set, which is the power pad and the zapper and whatnot. Like, surely that was about $200, so that was like whatever. It's like, no, that was like $120, $140 when we bought. I'm like, oh, so the numbers keep getting bigger, but it's because hopefully wages are supposed to
inflation.
I've also
exactly.
I've also seen the argument of games have been at the $60 US price point for a long time, and so they're due to go up or whatever. And like, cool, you want to axe some of those awful, very aggressive microtransactions? Then I'm fine if you want to increase the price of your games. I'm cool with the idea of paying devs a price, but I'm not cool with overly malicious, aggressive microtransactions. I'm not talking every microtransaction, just the really bad ones.
Yeah, because the split used to be, of course, and it, of course, this is all getting people used to it, but it used to be free game microtransactions. Now it's full price game microtransactions. But I gotta say, with all this talk about at least the new next gen consoles coming out and what the price point is, as somebody who is primarily a PC gamer, it's tough. Like, I look at like a console is $299, say $299 American.
Sure.
Is for the cheap, the thing, which is it'll probably be about 400 Canadian.
Yep.
And it's like, that's pretty inexpensive. Like, that's the price of, you couldn't even get you could get like a medium good graphics card for a computer for that. Like, that's pretty cheap. It's like, wow, that's really good. And then you're like, but if I'm paying $80 or so per game, and Epic is literally giving me games every week on my computer, and Steam keeps doing massive sales where I can buy games for like $5.
Yep.
There isn't that kind of, and I know it's not great for PC developers to have their games, the value of their games diminished like that. But I gotta say, when I see a game for $80, I get a bill like, oh, right, that is the price that games are.
Yeah.
Right. I just never buy them at that price, I guess.
And being Nintendo gamers, we see that the price comes in, like the first party prices are always like, this is going to cost a lot. Also, it's not ever going to come down in price.
Right.
Generally doesn't. Nintendo doesn't really sell their first party stuff.
It's like buying Apple gear. It's like, it always is the price. It will always be the price.
Maybe $10 off.
I was looking at, I was looking at a Switch the other day, and I was like, I think maybe I'll get a Switch. Now they're actually reasonably available. Yeah. And I was like, I get a Switch, and and I might as well, obviously I didn't play Breath of the Wild, and I didn't play the Mario Odyssey.
Odyssey.
And so I was like, I get those. Hey, look, it's like $80? They're like 3 years old games. What?
Yeah. Still really good.
No, I mean
they're
Paul,
still good, yes. But
if you get a Switch, Paul, there's lots of us who have a lot of games that we can lend you to play if you want. You can borrow something from our extensive library. So
yeah,
can you actually? I guess you can actually do that on.
Because we have tons of physical copies, because we don't buy the fucking digital stuff.
That's not totally true. I do buy some digital.
You have to sometimes.
On other consoles, even if you have the physical one, it still locks it to your console.
They do not do that with the Switch. No. I want to know which console that is, so I don't buy it ever.
I think Xboxes and PlayStations both do that, don't they?
The PlayStation? No, I've borrowed games from people all the time.
The newest ones, even like the
no
PS4
console does that. Oh, I thought that. I thought. I guess it's the. Maybe I'm just thinking of some games that with like DLC stuff. Yeah,
there are specific games that have, I think, locked where they tend to be digital only or a certain thing on the disc that may have had that issue, but I don't think it's console wide.
Xbox One was going to do that, and then they backed off on it.
Yeah, real fast, too.
Also, Paul, we have a Switch at the office that's going largely unused. Just borrow that and play a game. You play Yoshi's Crafted World on Play It Forward. Mandra just pointed that out.
Yeah, clearly you just need to do another Play It Forward stream.
Go borrow the
Apparently
Switch
so.
from the office and play Breath of the Wild on it. And I think we even own a copy of Breath of the Wild at the office. So
Apparently.
there you
No,
go.
we should.
You should rely upon using your business assets.
Well, if my business manager says I should.
Yeah. I want to fucking
also-
advertise this stuff, Paul. Get more use out of it.
And also, if you saw the European Askler, apparently everyone's stealing stuff from the office.
I'm glad I wasn't there to admit. Wait, what did you admit that we stole? Oh, you told them? I mean, I know I wrote it down in the spreadsheet so people knew, so that it had to be returned. But you told them.
It was great. It was because Kathleen was like, "Oh, but my chair sucks and my chair hurts to sit in." And it's like, really? We borrowed a chair from the office because no one's using it. You should do the same thing. Come on, Kathleen, go to the office and borrow a chair. We just peer pressured her into doing that shit. It was great.
She's the one who made the spreadsheet. She should know that everyone's been taking stuff.
Well, she doesn't go check it every day.
As on a slightly serious note, as some people just like, you own the company, so isn't it just basically yours? That is a very bad idea to get into, right? That's how you end up with very bad, like people. The idea of like using a company as your piggy bank. Or whatever, right?
Embezzlement is generally the thing.
You can, in fact, embezzle from your own company. It is a thing that happens. And
there
that is not a thing that we are doing.
My understanding is there's even cases where if the company buys something and it is, but a person ends up using it for personal use way more than using it for company use. Like if we bought a computer or something, right? And it ended up being like, oh, this is a personal use item. It's whatever, right? It's like the fact that becomes a personal use item, technically, according to accounting rules, if it becomes a personal use item, but the company paid for it, that's a taxable benefit. And you have to pay tax on the fact that the company enriched you with that item. Because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to buy the item for yourself. And so tax rules are very specific about what it is you're allowed to say. This is a corporate thing and this is not a corporate thing.
We specifically, when we had one of the yearly meetings, said if we can, we should try to buy some of our games physically and let people borrow them.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying
borrowed.
I'm not saying in this particular instance it's a totally reasonable thing. But
No, I'm going back to you should just borrow the Switch and play some games.
Yeah.
The idea that everything the company owns you own personally is very bad.
No, that's not true at all.
That's not a thing. And I just
But-
wanted to make sure that was very clear.
But if you make yourself a profile on the Switch, Paul, and you play it a bit, you try it out. If you like it, you can transfer your profile to your new Switch and have all your saves and stuff. And that way you don't have to start from scratch on your own.
Anyway, let's talk about what's coming up on the show.
Cool.
Because we got Friday Night Paper Fight coming up tonight, and they're going to be doing the Zendikar Rising. I think they're going to be doing sealed drafts or sealed.
I believe it's sealed.
Still construction.
On Arena. That's going to be on Arena, not physically. But
I find in Magic, if you have one word and you just say it over and over, and then you don't add the other words, you can't be wrong. So just say sealed. Don't add construction or draft to that.
And if you at home are playing Magic the Gathering Arena as well, and your desk is looking a little bare, we also have on the store the new Diagram Arena playmat. Go check that out.
the keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
Diagram playmat. Yeah, check that out. And then on Saturday, starting way too early, starting at 5 a.m. The earlier he starts, the earlier he finishes. It's the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That's right. Ian is going to be going around. He's going to be going. He's playing a different game this year, I believe, than he did.
Assetto Corsa, I believe, as it says in the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's also not going for speed this year.
He's going the distance.
He's going the distance, and he's using some odd vehicles or something.
So the way I see it is that he has the obvious disadvantage that he's, because of the social distancing and stuff, can't have people come by and like hang out.
That's what he thinks. Boys, you gonna be
So
surprised?
No.
it's just going to be like him and Corey stuck there, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Corey is going to leave.
I would. Too.
I mean, Corey doesn't want to get stuck there the whole day.
I assume Corey's going to do what she does best, which is like appear in the background in weird places, like she does with photos. She's very good at it.
But then, on the plus side, though, he won't have us there messing him up and slowing him way, way down.
Well,
And doing
you'd
things
be
that are
surprised
technically
what you
against
can
the
do
rules.
to a person to distract them through voice, Paul. I know. I've been doing Rhythm Cafe with Ian for ages.
I bet he changed games just so that I couldn't accidentally DNR him. Or not DNR, DQ him. That's what it is. DNR is a completely different thing that I don't want to do. He turned off DQs, and then I got him disqualified.
Yeah, we found
surprised.
Which means I want you to go into that voice chat and try again.
Surprised, ashamed, and proud that I did that.
You found a way to disqualify that the game hadn't counted on, I guess.
Yeah.
So that'll be happening on Saturday all day, and then it obviously into the morning of Sunday, because it is the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Then he'll get some sleep.
And then
I'm honestly not sure why he's let that stay on the schedule, because I know I've heard him be like, well, maybe we shouldn't. And I'm like, if you want to cancel it, you're welcome to, my dude. But until he says no, it's happening. And he's the one who has to go into the office and do it. So,
all right. So Le Mans followed by Rhythm Fighter. And then on Monday, we've got Metro Exodus. Alex is going to be continuing his playthrough of Metro Exodus, which I believe he has been quite enjoying. And then on Dice Friends, we have the next session. We had to skip a session because of the PPR, but we have our next session of Best of Intentions with Andy, Jacob, and Corey, and Dale as our DM. So that should be lots of fun.
should be session 6, I think.
I believe so, yes.
I think you're on 6 now.
That sounds right. And yeah, the last session, we left the last session with the players dealing with a rather unruly train.
Right. Yes, I remember catching the end of that.
So we'll have to see what happens in this episode. And then on Tuesday, we're back to 9 o'clock. By the way, if you didn't catch the Punch-a-Chunk live stream that we did for PAX Online with James and Serge and TQ and Pearlescent Moon, who are a couple of friends who are also Minecraft players, it was a lot of fun. So you should check out the VOD of that. I believe it will be going up on our YouTube channel as well.
Yes, we should be getting those VODs up in the next couple of days, over the next week, I think, is how I've got that scheduled out. But I believe all of the PAX Online panels on PAX Live themselves are done now.
All of the ones that we
submitted.
Yes, I think our last one was
PAX
yesterday.
Online, if they're still going
Actually,
on.
I think PAX Online is done now, isn't it?
It's the 20th.
That's the 20th. You're right. My apologies. It's got a couple more days left.
And
you guys raised a bunch of money, so that's great.
Yeah. The final total, I believe, was $5,338.29.
Awesome.
That we raised for Child's Play for that. So
good.
That was a lot of fun.
Spoilers, but
spoilers. They did a good thing.
It was successful.
Yeah.
And then on Talking Simulator, Cam and Corey are going to be looking at Pathologic 2. Or continuing to look at Pathologic 2.
I don't know why we're still calling that stream Talking Simulator. It clearly is Talking Nope.
Yeah. Oh, it's gotten scary, hasn't it?
Pathologic 2 is a horror survival game, I think.
It's Let's Nope. Volume 2. Let's Nope precursor to actual Let's Nope, The Maid of Skur. Which I was going to say, that picture does look very Let's Nope-y.
It does, doesn't it?
Except the difference with Talking Simulator is that they pause and reflect on why it is so spoopy.
As opposed to Let's Nope, where they scream and run out of their chairs.
Yes.
Exactly. Where the spoops come from. That's what's important. Not just that there are spoops. Yes, we have lots of various other things. Play It Forward. Continuing Metro Exodus on Wednesday. And then, I was mentioning that
there
this
we go.
is happening.
Yeah.
Among Us will be streaming on Wednesday. So that will be fun, probably.
I mean, I would hope so.
That's the spirit.
Apparently, people have a couple of people in the Loading Ray Run crew have been playing it in various other places and have been enjoying it. So I'm sure that'll be a fun stream. Now, let us welcome all the awesome people who subscribed during this stream. Starting with Bronze Finger for 79 months. Thank you.
8-Bit Dreams. Ooh, yeah, I could go for 8-Bit Dream graphics. 25 months. Welcome back.
Karfsma 778 has been here for 41 months. Welcome back.
Hello, Oogly for 55 months.
Admiral Matt, 61 months of service.
Educated Peasants has been here for 3 months.
The most dangerous kind of peasants.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what also is very dangerous, 100 Abraham Lincolns.
Would you rather 100 Abraham Lincolns, or would you rather
100 horse-sized Abraham Lincolns, or 100 Abraham Lincoln-sized horses? For 71 months.
the fickle cat still around for them 18 months.
Still won't come when I call.
If Abraham Lincoln was a horse, how would he wear his hat?
Would Abrahorse Lincoln? Wait, fucking what? Who was it again? Was it? There was fucking the.
Was it a My Little Pony reference?
No, we did a thing where it's like
we did.
Was it Andy Sargent? No.
No.
Was it Nixon Horse?
Is this a panelist thing? Because I don't watch that
This
show.
was from a while ago, from a live thing we did.
Well, I definitely didn't watch that.
Constable Horse Nixon? I can't remember what the hell it was again. Pulse Gun returns! Shit, I got it before Ignatius Pants did. Constable Horse Nixon, yes! Pulse Gun! It's been here for 34 months.
Geno Solo for 6 months. Thank you very much.
Godo Paste for a whole year. Paste the Godos.
I knew that was buried in my head somewhere. It was going to have to come out. Ryzok has been here for 79 months. That's so many months, Ryzok. Thank you.
That's a feet dump bit.
Splash for Mirrodin for 72 months. Thank you very much.
Basic Human Decency is a new subscriber. Welcome to the channel. I hope you stick around.
You weren't around before. It's nice to have some.
I've actually seen them amongst. I believe they follow my channel, so
nice.
I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah. Let's hope we have a long and fruitful subscription to Basic Human Decency.
On the other hand, Reynard Reck is still here, and they've been here for 44 months.
T. Stodden for 81 months. Thank you very much.
Xbox Series Triple X, that brand new movie with Vin Diesel that you never thought was going to happen. Thank you for that gift, Maricat.
Ice Cube.
It's not Vin Diesel. It's actually just an Xbox in a tank top.
But it's definitely got the Triple X tattoo on the back of it.
Yeah, with the tattoo on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Xbox Series X has 3 X's in it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
It's your turn.
Junior roll. I could go for a junior roll. I'm quite hungry. 47 months. 47 months.
What's
That's
a junior roll?
What's on a junior roll?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's cheese and lettuce and ham.
Oh.
And mustard and some sort of spicy mayonnaise.
All right.
But it's not very big. That's why it's a junior roll.
Okay.
For some reason, I was thinking of like junior mints, like rolled up, but I think that's not a thing. Robocracy now for 50 months.
Why, so Sirius XD has been gifted a sub by the Maricat. I'm assuming that's something to do with Xboxes. That's what all the X's are going to be for me now.
I'm just the idea of the Joker using like
the XT
emotes.
at the end. Yeah.
I'm gonna spray you with horrible nerve gas that makes you smile. Lol.
Shanow has been here for 17 months. It's another prime number. Thank you, Shanow. Shanow.
MC 40K for 51 months.
Mark Barks for 33 months. Welcome back.
Mark Bark.
Yeah.
For Tharky Thark Marks. Chuck Splat has been here for 18 months. Welcome back, Chuck Splat.
And thank you to Roman Goro, the King in Green, Sand 101 Bouncy, Toes Masher 89, and Ixian Doom. All gifted by Muddy Thunder.
Welcome to the channel.
Gifted by Muddy Thunder.
Except Roman Goro, I know you've been here before.
Kane Weathers has been gifted a sub by the Maricat. Thank you, Maricat.
And with the bits, hey, it's Lord Crusher with 100 bits at the end. I was almost kind of hoping there wouldn't be any bits, so I just got left hanging. But that's good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Lord Crusher wouldn't leave you hanging.
Nah.
All right, we'll be going away. The Friday Night Paper Fight will be on in just over an hour. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. And we will talk to all y'all later. Bye.
Bye.